Our website visits went from 2,000 a month to 20 overnight. Year and a half later, the day before my car broke, I realized this. My sister was like, have you ever looked into this report? And I looked at it and I saw the graph. I was like, oh my, like this was hundreds of thousands of dollars of income that we had lost.
You need to hit rock bottom sometimes. There's only up from there if you take the action.
We don't really need to fix the car right now, but we could pull them $10,000 out of retirement savings and invest it into coaching. Like this is either a really good move because we believe it will work, or if I don't actually believe it will work, this is what I actually need to do because I actually need like my mindset to change. We really turned it around. We ended up bringing in over $400,000 in 6 months.
This is what I can call sometimes like the messy middle. It's like when you have one foot in an old life and one foot in a new life. I think that asking for help is where people kind of get stuck. Every time you blame someone else or something else, you give your power away. Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Spirit and Soul Podcast. Today, I am super excited to introduce to you a good friend of mine, someone who we got to know each other through a coaching program that we're a part of. And now it's just like, I just love cheering her on. She's cheering me on, and we're doing like things together, and it's so much fun. And I just love her story, and I can't wait for her to share it with you. So everybody, please welcome Meg Bradyhouse to the Spirit and Soul Podcast. Welcome, Meg.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me.
Meg is a powerhouse energy. Meg, first of all, before we get into like your story and everything, your energy on Instagram is amazing. It is phenomenal. Every time a post comes up of yours, I'm like, I love your energy so much. So I just wanted to start out by saying
that's such a nice compliment. If only you could see the 142 takes I have to do before I ever post anything. Instagram.
I hear you. Trust me. All right. So Meg, why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and your story?
Yeah, so I am a wedding photographer. I live out on Kauai in Hawaii. I've been here for just over 10 years. I have been a photographer for 16 years. I started off in Canada, so I'm from a small town farm community with like 300 people in Canada. And then, the winters just got a little too much for me out there, so I decided to escape out here one winter. It was supposed to be temporary. I ended up meeting my husband. I moved in next door to him, essentially, and we ended up starting to work together, and we got married, and I obviously didn't end up going back to Canada and have been here ever since. So that's kind of how I ended up here. We shoot weddings. We shoot about 100 weddings a year between the two of us. So it's been a really beautiful career. It's taken us to some really beautiful places in the world. And yeah, I think like my main story, I think, of transformation pretty much starts during COVID when that obviously shut down Hawaii. It shut down the wedding industry, and we were kind of left in this plateau in our business and just hoping that it would pick up. So we ended up having a baby just after COVID. We had a baby right before COVID as well. And so I was in that like postpartum kind of transitional phase, kind of just letting my business do what it was doing. And I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it. And pretty soon in about 2023, I realized that like it really wasn't picking back up. Like I was just waiting for it to happen. That is when I kind of realized I'd just been blaming a lot of like external factors outside of my control, like the economy and tourism. And that's why everything is slowing down, and not really taking responsibility for my own actions and just my own involvement. And with Peter and I both being in the same business together, it was kind of a scary time because we didn't really have a backup income to fall on. And I'd been a photographer for 16 years. So I was starting to like spiral. And like, I think you and probably everyone listening knows that feeling of like when you start spiraling a little bit, your language, your energy, everything just goes with it. And it's just a downwards like race to the bottom, essentially, when that starts happening. And so I'm thankful that I have, friends and family that kind of called me on it, and they're like, hey, like you're not talking like you're positive about the future. You're like bracing for impact, and that's not who you are. And I started having this like existential, like, oh my gosh, who am I? Who am I even being right now? And we like got a bill to fix our car that we had just bought, and it was more money than what we paid for the car. It was like $14,000. And I realized for the first time basically in my life, I didn't have the money to fix the car. And that like kind of took me by surprise a little bit. And so I just remember like, having this day where I just sobbed and I was just like, what have I've let everything slip, my energy, I need to turn it around. I'm going to give myself today to like feel sorry for myself essentially. And then tomorrow I'm going to like make some moves. And so what ended up happening is Peter and I basically sat down. We were like, okay, we don't really need to fix the car right now, but we could pull them $10,000 out of retirement savings and we can invest it into coaching because I obviously need to do things differently than I'm doing them. And so we did that, which seemed crazy on the outside. Like it was like it's terrifying. And I was like, are we sure? And the thing I kept coming back to, which I think is interesting, is I was saying to him, like, this is either a really good move because we believe it will work, or if I don't actually believe it will work, this is what I actually need to do because I actually need like my mindset to change. So it's like I either believe this is going to happen and I'm going to be able to fix this, or if I don't, that's the problem that I have. Like that is literally proof of the problem. And so when we broke it down like that, we just went all in. We were like, okay, let's do it. I went into Dan Martell's program, and I think like he talks a lot about the transformation happens at the transaction. And that was definitely the story for me. I was like, okay, I'm not going to sit back anymore. I want to show my kids that you can like fix things and take responsibility and like go build something. And so I really just became like back to myself like overnight. Like it was such a cool feeling even internally where I could feel like my energy. I was like, okay, I have my spark back. Like this is what I was missing. And so, yeah, I just went all in on everything, and turns out just doing anything consistently is helpful. I truly think the magic in that program is being in a program where you just do something. Because a lot of times we don't even know it. We're just sitting back and letting life happen to us and not like going out and getting what we want. And if you just had a little bit of energy and focus towards getting something or going and doing one thing, like working out every day or whatever it is, like talk to 5 people a day or whatever the 5 day non-negotiables are, you do one of those things consistently, it's going to make a difference. And so, yeah, I just had fallen into this pattern of like blaming everything and then really shifting that mindset to like, no, I can own the problem and I can definitely own the solution. So yeah, that's been the journey I've been on over the last like 7 months. And it's been amazing. Yeah, we really turned it around. We ended up bringing in over $400,000 in 6 months, and just I'm not slowing down.
What a story. I like seriously have chills. So I want to like break down your story and kind of like unpack a lot of the things, because you said so many beautiful pieces that I think that so many people will resonate with. In reality, I think that, your story shows that it's kind of like you need to hit rock bottom sometimes. And there's only up from there if you take the action, right? And I want to say that because it's like you can only go up from here. And it's like, no, you can actually go further down if you let yourself. You can live there. Oh my goodness, you can live there. And I've seen so many people do it. And, it's unfortunate because all you need to do, like you said, is just take that action. So it's like, you're spiraling. I can almost like feel the energy of that spiral like coming on. And when you're in that spiral, you do begin to start blaming everybody, everything outside of you, because you don't want to look inside. Is that where you would kind of say that you were? Like you weren't looking inward at all?
I think it started off as me trying to set my expectations appropriately. So like moving into the new year, we just had like COVID, right? So it was nothing. We had no business. And then we moved into the wedding boom. And so anyone who's familiar with the wedding industry knows that in 2020, the end of 2021 and 2022, we had like 4 years worth of work packed into 1 year. And it was wild. I was burnt out. Things were crazy, but you don't expect when business is doing well to stop. And the reality is that did happen. So like you could literally just be doing nothing and be so busy as a wedding photographer in 2022. 2023, you had to go back to like working for your business again. And a lot of people just didn't, because they hadn't had to in so long, because there was no work and then there was a surplus of work. So I think I was like bracing for that, and my language. I think the biggest thing that everyone around me noticed is my language. Like I used to be, people would be like, how's business? Oh, it's so amazing. Like so good. We're so busy. I'm so lucky. And that's what I'd put out there. But moving into 2023, I was kind of like, oh, it's slow. They're calling this like the wedding gap year, like we're doing okay, but we're like, it's okay. Like we're ready for a slowdown. I'm tired from the last year. And I'd started talking like that, which I had never done in the past. Like that's me as a person, that's not who I am at all. But I think I was like bracing our team and everybody just to know like, hey, this isn't going to be like what it was last year. But in doing that, I kind of brought it to me that way. And I kind of manifested it to slow down because I did that for a year and a half. And like part of that story that which is kind of crazy is in doing this, I changed our business name. And I was just, doing things that entrepreneurs do to keep themselves busy. And I changed from Brady House Photographers to Brady House Studios. And for a year and a half, I didn't notice that day that I did that, I broke something in Google. I don't even know how it works. But our website visits went from 2,000 a month to 20 overnight. And it was a year and a half. And I kept being like, it really has slowed down. I don't understand. Like, we're hardly getting any inquiries through our website. We used to get 3 to 10 every day. And instead of looking inward, like you said, and being like, is something wrong? I just was like, yeah, this is what I was expecting. I was correct. So a year and a half later, which was kind of the day before my car broke, I realized this. My sister was like, have you ever looked into this report? And I looked at it and I saw the graph. And it was like out of a movie. Like I literally was holding a glass of water and I dropped it and it just like broke on the floor. And I just started I was like, oh my, this was hundreds of thousands of dollars of income that we had lost. And I'm sure maybe things might have slowed down naturally, but they weren't going to go from that to that overnight. And I think that was just a really huge lesson for me to be like, hey, you have to be curious, pay attention in your business, have systems set up so things like that can't happen for a year and a half. And so it was like this gut-wrenching moment of like, okay, I either can be sad about this and I can be a victim of this, or I can be like, I did this and I didn't pay attention and I rather blamed everything else other than being curious. And this is where we are. So now we work up. Like you said, you're like rock bottom makes you make decisions that you would never normally consider. And so that was part of it.
Yeah, like you were creating that reality of like it's slow and also bought into a paradigm, right? Like other people were saying it's slow, it's a slow season, it's the gap year, and you're like, yeah, it's the gap year, right? And we
Absolutely.
and we buy into it. Meanwhile, there were so many other things going on behind the scenes,
Well, that protects your ego when you can blame something else. You can be like, yeah, this is not me. I'm a great photographer. This is everything else. And I think we get moral credit for what you wouldn't be responsible for this because it wouldn't happen to you. And so you give yourself that little ego boost every time you blame something that's outside of your control.
Yeah, but every time you blame someone else or something else, you give your power away. And basically what you did that whole time is you were just giving your power away, even to the internet. It is your trigger moment. It is like that moment that accelerated you forward. And it's interesting, right? To me, the symbolism that it was a car that you literally could not move you couldn't go anywhere anymore. The symbolism of that breaking down, you're like, there's nothing I can do. I can't fix this is just not lost on me. I love that because then all of a sudden it's like you got your butt in gear. And so now you take a leap and talk to me about what that took. Because obviously joining Dan's group is, it's amazing. It has changed both of our lives. And it also comes with a price tag. And for somebody that's in this moment where you're like, oh my God, now I'm borrowing against my retirement to get this going. How, talk to me about that. What was going on inside? What was going on in your mind?
I think that I'm thankful that I always had that confidence. I've always had a confidence of everything is figure outable. My parents, growing up, I don't think they ever said anything else more than that. Everything, there's always a solution. Everything is figure outable. You want that, then go figure out how to do it. And so I think I've always had that internal voice in my head. And so when we pulled the retirement and I literally gave it all away the next day, it definitely freaked me out. But at the same time, when you put something on the line and the stakes are so high, you just do what you got to do. So it definitely stretched me. But it wasn't something that I didn't believe in. And I knew that if I just followed the course, I knew that if I could just own this and learn from it instead of sit in it, that I could move it forward. And I think I'm very grateful because I started to see results really fast. And we started to even the next month, we went from I think we brought in like 30,000 extra dollars than we did the month before. And so that like immediately paid back the retirement that we had pulled, and we were profiting. And so then it doubled again the next month. And so it was like this really fast, things were moving really fast. And I think a big piece of that is trusting in your vision and like being able to leverage things without the proof that it's going to last. That was the hardest part for me, where I was like, okay, things are good, but I still had this like reservation of like, but is this only going to be good for a couple months and then it's going to go back to what it was? And so it's something I'm still working through, is that like holding that new identity of like, hey, I'm a person who does these things, and trusting myself that I am, in fact, actually now a person who does these things. Like the old version is gone, like they're not coming back. And so I think I'm still constantly not battling in like a sense that I'm, struggling with it really hard, but it definitely pops up here and there. Like we were talking before this episode of like making big purchases, and like we just spent $20,000 that included like no airfare or accommodation or anything to go to a business retreat in 2 weeks. And like coming from someone who couldn't even fix my car 7 months ago, that felt like that transaction made me like physically nauseous. Even though my brain is like, hey, this, every time you invest in yourself, every time you do this, you grow, you get it back. It blows you through to the next level. Like I know it makes sense in my head, but my nervous system like hasn't caught up yet. And so I think there's this like constant me reminding myself, and like I'll go through meditations or like writing in my journal, like this is who I am now. I'm a person who makes $1 million a year. I'm a person who does this. These are things that I do, and that's not going away. But I think just like learning to rewire that's been a journey.
Yeah. And, I think that too, what it comes down to, and like what I'm also hearing is like, if you really look at your whole story, like, I think you probably have to let go of, can I speak freely here?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would say it's like, it kind of sounds like a karmic loop to me, like it's like that COVID time and like that time. So it's like, you're really kind of hitting on that old version of you every time you're like, well, because you said the same words before, right? Like, well, what if it doesn't come back again, or like it just stops, right? Because you already did go through that. So then as you're healing it, which you are healing it with the success, right? That is a part of it. It's like healing it through the success and continuing to move forward and push forward, right? And so you're doing that, and it's so beautiful. And it's like reminding yourself that you have grown out of that, and that was a time, right, in the past, and we can let go and start to like unwind that nervous system around that.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of it becomes the stories that you tell yourself, and they're not always necessarily true. And so like oddly enough, talking with like an AI program that's like going to ask me questions, right? It kind of came up that like, well, the story in your head is that like you were doing really good in business in 2019, and then 2020 hit and it all got taken away. And then you had a wedding boom in 2022, and then in 2023 it all got taken away. But like, how do we rewrite that story? And so I went back and thought about it. And like during COVID in Hawaii, we got insane government assistance. Like we were making $1,800 a week, like nuts. Like some people don't ever make that in their actual job. And so like we got, $60,000 of forgiven loans and all of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not exactly true that everything got taken away. Like we actually still did pretty good during COVID. And then, it wasn't exactly true that it got taken away in 2023. I just happened to like blacklist myself from Google. And so like rewriting these stories, and I like, it's felt silly, but like actually was writing them out in my journal of like, okay, it didn't really disappear. Nothing ever stops unless I stop. That's the only like common denominator. And so as long as I know that I'm not going to stop, this is going to continue on and I'm going to do great. And so just like learning to identify the stories that you're telling yourself, and then learning how to collect evidence essentially that they're not true, and to try again and write them in a way that serves you and your future better.
Yeah. And I love that, because the new story is what makes all the difference. Like that is your subconscious mind having to make what is unfamiliar, having to make it familiar. And it's going to be uncomfortable until the new story is familiar. It's going to keep rearing its ugly head until you keep saying, no, I'm safe. We're safe. We're safe. So I love that you just like wrote it out. And I love that, that you use AI, honestly, to do that it's like asking you these questions, because it's pretty smart AI. It's pretty great questions. But yeah, like that's something I would do, right? Like have somebody, one of my clients do is like, all right, well, what is the new story? What was the actual story? Because we, like you said, we tell ourselves stories all the time and they're not the truth. I see this all the time in hypnosis too. It's like you've been telling yourself this story over and over again. It's never been true. And now, as you're taking the leap and as you're growing, this is where I really want to kind of dive in here because this is what I can call sometimes like the messy middle. And I think you and I have talked about this before. It's like when you have one foot in an old life and one foot in a new life. And I know we kind of talked a little bit about the story, like we're talking about, the stories that we tell ourselves, but what else has been like challenging you throughout this? Because you're raising your hand, so it's
Yeah.
you're in the messy middle now.
No,
So like,
it's figuring out like how to let go of old things, make room for new things for sure. I think a lot of things that come up are friendships that can be hard. People that aren't necessarily expecting you to be different. And that sometimes can make other people feel uncomfortable as well, like when it kind of brings up insecurities in people when you go for it. And so I've been dealing with that, especially in a small town. I have really had to lock in on my mindset, and I can't afford, because I'm in the messy middle, to like let it slip. And so I've been really discerning of my energy and where I'm spending my time and who I'm talking to, not in a sense of like that I don't miss some people and do things, but like I just have to be so careful right now that I'm like being strategic and discerning and protecting my energy. And so I think that can be hard. Friendship wise, I'm very lucky that I have like an extremely supportive family and they are just pushing me and encouraging me. And I just surround myself with them every day. Like my parents live 3 miles away. My sister lives a mile away. And I do have a really beautiful group of people that are very encouraging and supporting and know that I can do it. So like really heavily leaning on those people right now in the season. And it doesn't mean it's forever and that I'll never see anybody else again. I'm just in a season right now that I have to be careful because I don't want to slip into negativity or negative language or like those old stories in my head. So I'd say definitely like the balance of that has been hard, but also it's okay. I feel like I know I'm just so thankful that I have it's not that I don't have anybody and it's not as isolating as I'm sure it is for some people. Like some people, when you go down this, if I didn't have my family supporting me, which I know sometimes it's hard for people who have never done what you're trying to do to like understand, but I'm very thankful that they all just like believe in me 110%. And that I think is really rare.
I love that. And, like I want everybody listening to really like hone in on this moment that you're talking about because it's so important. This is law of attraction at its finest, right? Like what brought you together with those friends from the past as you're elevating outside of it, it can't keep you together because you're at a different frequency now at this point. And when that happens, it's like you can't help it. It's not that there's a lack of love or anything like that. It's just that it's an energy difference and you just can't fight the laws of physics. Like it is what it is. And so you just saying, I have to just let go because I need to protect my energy is the most powerful thing you can do. Like what a powerhouse to be able to just say like, I have to protect myself, right? That's amazing. But also like saying, I know it's not forever. And, maybe you won't go back to those people again because they're going to have to do some work. Like we're not going backwards, we're going forward. Are you going to come meet me up here? Maybe. Let's hope. And if not, you're going to attract other people that are at your energetic level. And I think that's why the group too, like Dan's group is so good, is because we have a plethora of people that are in that and get it.
Yeah, well, that cheerleading frequency of like someone else winning doesn't mean that I'm going to lose. And I love that. And I love being surrounded by it. I love being encouraged by it and encouraging other people that are doing stuff. And I think, like you said, that attracting people at that frequency is a game changer. It's huge. Like who you surround, like what is the saying? Like you're the byproduct of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it truly is true. Like my habits are so different now than they were a year ago. Like I drink alcohol less and I work out and run every day and I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like doing these things that are like helping my motivation and my momentum. And there's people celebrating that instead of like giving me shit for it, basically. Right. And so I think that there's a difference. And I'm still, like you said, in that messy middle. So I know personally that I just have to be discerning because it's easy to fall back into old habits. It's really easy to be like, oh, okay, well, just be this person again for one day so you can fit in. And so you don't have to make everyone else feel uncomfortable. And I think I'm just trying to avoid putting myself in situations like that so I don't fall.
Yeah. And, I know exactly what you're talking about, especially with the drinking, because like I don't drink really at all anymore. Like maybe if I have a glass of wine every like 6 months, it's a lot. And it's not for any reason. I just decided I didn't want to anymore. Like I just wasn't enjoying it. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Right. But then you get put into old situations.
True. It is the stories that we tell ourselves how we're supposed to show up. Nobody else actually cares because they're worrying about how they're showing up and they're not actually thinking about you.
Exactly. We're always thinking everybody's thinking of you. It's like no one's thinking of you. We can be our harshest judge, and we often are our harshest judge. So if we have that within us, then we think that people are going to mirror back to us the judgments. And it's like, no. What would you say? Because it just this story is just amazing. And guys, like I want to make sure that you are watching Meg's journey because she is on a rocket ship and it is just a beautiful, beautiful to watch. And I've told Meg this before, and it really is just amazing. But like for people at home that are like maybe in that like rock bottom, like what do you have to say to them?
I think the biggest thing that I would say, or what I wish someone said to me earlier, is the fastest and easiest thing that you can start changing is the words that you use that describe where you're at and where you're going. And so I see it a lot of times of people that are unhappy. Like I'm divorced as well. I was married when I was 20 and got divorced when I was 23. So I feel like I've hit these like bottom points a few different times. And every time I've realized that like I'm like making it my personality of where I'm at. And I think that we all like have the power in us to just change the words that you use about your situation and about where your trajectory is. And I think once you start changing the words that you use, your brain is amazing and it will find different opportunities to tell you that story is true. And it's like the most simple way to break down like manifestation or whatever you want to call it. But I truly think that there's just so many inputs in a day that any story you tell yourself, you can find proof to make it true. And I tell my 6-year-old this all the time. She'll be like, it's so boring. I have nothing to do. And I'll be like, hey, like if you say that, you'll be right. What else could you say? And so she'll like think of something else. And, I think that's pretty cool to like instill in kids at an early age or like for anyone who's just feeling stuck. Like it's literally start with your words and then slowly work your way up from there.
Think that your words truly make the biggest difference, the words that you're saying out loud, the words that you're saying to yourself. So start becoming self-aware and you will start to see shifts and you have to let it shift. And like, it's also really easy to be, I think, in conversation with people that are operating at a lower vibration and maybe talking the same and then you falling back into it.
You don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. I think that's like inherent in humanity for the most part. You want to try and match the person so they don't feel uncomfortable. But I think the best thing that you can do is elevate your language and your energy so that you can pull them up with you.
I agree. And I will often, because that's like a people pleasing response. Like we want to be like, oh yeah, I agree. Like I remember there was this lady in like CVS and like she was like buying candy or whatever. And she's like, oh, the prices, they're crazy. And I was just like, right? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't really agree. Like, I don't, and she was waiting for me to agree. And I was just like, I can't agree with you because I don't know. Everything looks like it's on sale to me, you know? I don't know. So, I kind of have to speak my truth. And like, when I find that when I do that, yeah, it does make people feel uncomfortable, but I don't mean it to be mean. I just don't agree. And I'm not going to lower myself down to make you feel better.
I love the idea that like anybody can choose to change the words that they use. One thing that I have done in the past, just like kind of as a parenting thing for me to like kind of be aware of how I was talking to my kids, is I just turned my voice memo on and like let it run for like 30 minutes randomly in the kitchen and make yourself go back and listen to it. And you will discover so many things that are just habits of how you speak about things. And I think the first thing is being aware of how you speak about things. That's the only way that you can change it, because when I did this, I was like, "Oh, I hate that. Like I can't believe how many times I like said no or just like shot down their idea, or like things that you don't necessarily mean, like you said, in a mean way, but you're just programmed to respond a certain way." And I think whether it's, talking to your spouse or to your kids or just in general how you view life, it's hard to see the label inside the bottle. And so if you can like turn a voice note on and then go back and like make yourself painfully like sit through it and listen to it and like take notes about like how you can change your language, that's a really powerful jumpstart if you're feeling like, I don't need to change my language. My language is great. Like I promise if you do that, it will be uncomfortable, but you'll probably like be better after.
That is the best thing, actually, that I've heard in a really long time. I love that tip. I think I want to do it. And also, I'm feeling scared to do it. And I have all the tools, but like, I know that I'm not, like you can't be perfect all the time, but you can notice again, like how you are talking to your kids, your significant other, like whatever it might be. And just really quick too, I think this is one thing that people might be like wondering too. How was your husband during all of this change? Because we're really talking about like your transformation, all of that, but this is a business that you have with your husband. So like, was he supportive? How is he during this? Because you could be on that rocket ship, and how is he then responding to it? Is he on the rocket ship too?
Yeah, this is a really good question, because this is something that I had to talk to him about in a very candid way before we decided to invest into coaching. Because having been in business for so long and actually having had a coach while I was in my early 20s, which honestly kind of led to a divorce, I was like apprehensive to get on the rocket ship and not know that, like, and just for him to be aware of how that was going to play out. And so Peter believes in me more than life. Like he is like, anytime I want to invest in myself or in any type of talent or skill or something like that, he's like 100% do it. You can do anything. And I'm so thankful for that. And so he was very supportive of pulling the money and investing into coaching. He knew that would be a great investment. But then I had to be like, okay, you have to understand that like, in order for me to do this and do it well, I'm going to have to change. And I'm going to like things that we do or that I do, or maybe that we even like, like sunset drinks every night or whatever it is. Like, I know that I'm going to have to level up, and it's going to be different, and it's not going to be worse, but it is going to be different. And like, are you okay with this? And so we sat down and we had like a real conversation about it. And he, of course, was, like, yep, amazing, let's do it. But then I will say the first 6 weeks of me being in the program was really hard for our marriage. And like, not because he didn't support me, not because any of that, but because I was locked in. And like, to be fair to Peter, like he went from basically us not having a job to me having like this wild amount of attention somewhere else, and him having to pick up the slack at home, which he did graciously. Like, he is incredible. He started doing all of our laundry. We like divided up all of our tasks. He took over cooking dinner every night and deciding what's for dinner. He does every single school pickup and drop off, and takes Charlie to dance lessons, and watches our 1.5-year-old in the daytimes while I'm on calls. Like, he does it all, and he doesn't complain about it. But I know that it was like kind of a hard thing for him to grasp, because he went from like golfing and surfing every day, because we basically didn't have a business, to like now he's this like, stay-at-home dad that's responsible for all of these things. And so I think that the shift was hard, and also me being like, what are your goals? I'm like really in this. And he's like, I don't know, I want to be a better golfer. And like, I'd be like mad at his goals because they weren't good enough for me. And so like, we definitely had some kinks that we are still working through. But like, I will say one thing about Peter: he is the most open person to learning and to being better. And so I think, like I've said to him a couple times, it might be beneficial if like you got a coach, so that maybe like you or like kind of, like working on something. And so we've talked about that a bit, but he likes to sit in on my coaching calls, and he's been like reading books, which he's never done before and ever since I've known him. But he's like listening to audiobooks of, self-development and mindset and things like that, so that we can connect and have things to talk about, while I'm like so much living in that world right now. And like I said, being very careful about where my energy goes, what I'm talking about, how I'm talking about things. So he has leveled up in a huge way to keep up basically. But I do feel for him sometimes because I know it's probably not like the most glamorous part. That's like for me to do what I'm doing, I need him to be able to do pickups and drop-offs and laundry and cook dinner. Like I need that or I wouldn't be able to be on this ship basically. And I think it's just the less glamorous, like behind the scenes stuff that doesn't get as much credit. So like I'm getting all this praise and all this credit. You're doing so good. You're killing it. But like I couldn't do it without him. And I wish that there was like a more glamorous way for me to express that to him. Like I try and tell him, and I should do a better job and tell him more. But that's why I'm really excited that we're going to this couples retreat because I think that's going to give us some skills and give him some recognition that like, hey, we're in this together. Like, yeah, I might be like driving the ship, but like it literally would fall apart if it wasn't for him on the back end.
Yeah. Oh my God. I honestly, I feel this 100% because this is how it's been with my husband as well. And it's amazing that, really the thing that I heard from this story was that like communication was the key. Like you sat down, you had the conversations, and then you felt the friction. And then it was like, okay, well, you got to level up or what are your goals? And, like
My husband loves hearing their wife tell them that he has to level.
Oh my God, right? Trust me, we could talk more. My husband hates it too, but he's also reading books and he's also doing the thing. So he puts, it's like they get it, but it's
he's
like
running a marathon. Like he's like tried to pick things that's like, okay, I'm gonna have to stop just, drinking beers and playing golf. And he's done it beautifully, I will say.
That's amazing. I love it. And it does, and you said something that was really beautiful. It's like it's the the part that's not so glamorous, but it's the necessity, right? It's like the necessity, especially if you're raising a family, you have a family and a house and you're trying to take care of all the things, like you physically can't do it all yourself. Like you couldn't have the momentum you were having and then do everything else at home. It's just you have to ask for help. And I think that's one thing that Dan taught us really well and probably what got us into the program, honestly, after reading Buy Back Your Time. It's like, the first thing that he's talking about, buying back your time is AKA asking for help. Like that's what it is. It's like you need help, start hiring. And I think that asking for help is where people kind of get stuck.
It's an ego thing, though. You think you're the only one that can do it. And it's got to be done your way or it's not going to get done right or those things, So that goes back to what we were talking about earlier of the language you use and the stories you tell yourself. And it's just a matter of like rewriting that story so that you can actually do what you need to do.
Truly. Oh my goodness. Well, Meg, this was such a beautiful conversation. Why don't you tell everybody how they can follow you, follow along in your journey, and also all the beautiful things that you have to support people?
Yeah. So Instagram is definitely the best place to see kind of my day to day. You can find me there at Meg Bradyhouse and just shoot me a message that you came from Tiffany's podcast. If you want to just shoot me a DM that says Spirit and Soul, I can send you guys. Probably the best thing is the clarity roadmap that I have. It's a video training that I use and I give to all my students that I teach. And that just helps you kind of figure out your vision for your life and your daily actions that you need to get started to be able to get there. So I'd love to send that to you guys for free just for listening and for having me on here. And yeah, so I am doing business coaching. I run a mastermind called the Meg Bradyhouse Mastermind. We meet once a week where I teach different frameworks and mindset shifts and things like that, where people can come in, they listen to it live, and then we do one-on-one hot seat style coaching for business after that. So it's a really beautiful group full of people with like an abundance growth mindset that are just winning and killing it in business. It's such a beautiful energy recalibration every week. So if you are interested in that, please let me know. You can send me a DM on Instagram. And yeah, if anyone ever is traveling to Kauai, hit me up. And I got all sorts of recommendations.
So exciting because I'll be seeing Meg in Kauai very soon at the Elevate. Tell everybody quickly a little bit about Elevate because I'm sure you're going to do this again at some point.
Yes. So we are hosting an event called Elevate Hawaii. And so we're bringing together 10 VIP founders in partnership with Realist Women in Business magazine. And so given that we are photographers, we're doing a full kind of white glove personal brand masterclass. And so we're going to go in and teach everybody about how to step into your next identity. Tiffany is going to be coming to talk to everybody about energetics and just how the power of your mind can really transform your reality. And then we are going to do professional editorial style photo shoots. We have secured a $15 million house to host this at. So everyone is going to have like this really beautiful backdrop to their editorial photo shoots that they can use for their personal brand, for marketing, social media, all of that fun stuff. And then the next day is all about content creation. So how to actually use this and leverage this opportunity, the visibility of the magazine, because everyone is going to be featured as a woman in business in the Aurelius Business Magazine, which is amazing. Goes out to 600,000 subscribers, also launching in hardcover on Amazon. So super exciting. But just how to leverage that and how to be authoritative in your content and relatable and create content that actually converts to sales for businesses. So I am really excited. We have a really beautiful 2 days planned. And yeah, we're guaranteed we're going to do another one next year because it's already just like blown up so much. So yeah, so exciting.
Good. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. Just the whole thing. It's also so different than what gets it like with the magazine, like all the things. It's so beautiful and like the content is going to be amazing. So thank you so much for having me be a part of it. I'm really excited.
We're so excited to have you.
All right. And Meg, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. You left everybody with such incredible tidbits and big things of information. And like your story, I think, is so inspirational. So guys at home, please reach out to Meg. If you tell her about your story, what really stuck out to you. I'm sure that she would love to hear it. Let us know at Spirit and Soul Studio. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Spirit and Soul podcast. Thank you so much, Meg.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, guys.